It's Christmas Eve. The presents are all wrapped under the tree, the kids are tucked up in bed, and Santa is on the way. And that can only mean one thing. It's time for the Dan the Games Man Christmas Special.
Get pick up! Food in the games room! Brush tricks! Not get your hand! Oh yeah!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to a very special episode, as this is the Dan the Games Man Christmas Special. And I'm going to be looking back at some of my fondest memories of Christmas. And when I think of Christmases past, one of the main things that always comes to my mind is a brand new games console. Christmas was, more often than not, when I got a new games console. And today, we're going to sit down and have a casual chat through my gaming console history at Christmas. I'm sure for many of us, one of the fondest memories of Christmases when we were younger is unwrapping a brand new console on Christmas Day. And I'm no different. There are so many years throughout my life when Christmas had meant a brand new games console. And today we're going to be sitting down, having a more kind of casual, laid back chat about Christmas memories from myself of games consoles. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday night at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. But for this video, more than ever, I really want you to get involved in the comments section down below. Let's all share our favourite Christmas memories and just feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside. So for today's episode, I'm going to try and go back through my entire history of game consoles at Christmas. This is going to be a little bit fuzzy, I may ramble a little bit, but hopefully it'll just kind of spark some memories of your childhood, or even more recently of getting gaming consoles for Christmas. Looking back, this was the first console that I owned myself. It was the late 80s and I got a Game Boy like this one for Christmas. It came with 2 games, but this was the first games console I ever owned. I don't think I've ever actually said about this on my channel. This was my first console, that original classic 80s Game Boy. And this is probably where the obsession first started. And a lot of these consoles, sadly, I don't own anymore. But I actually own the same copy of Tetris still, because up until a few years ago, my mum still played Tetris quite religiously and probably could have been a world championship. That cart literally is worn down, but that was my very first console at Christmas. Fast forward a year or two later and I got my first Sega console, the Master System 2, which had Sonic the Hedgehog built in. An absolutely iconic console with some of the best console artwork of all time. This was the first time I kind of had to play a console around people wanting to watch the television. You know, having to put that RF splitter in the back. And it just blew me away. Like, the graphics coming from a Game Boy onto this was just such a jump. It also came with this game, Tom and Jerry the movie. And this is the power of nostalgia. When I started my Master System collection again, I knew I needed to own this game. I still to this day haven't actually completed this game. I think this is where my kind of difficulty in playing platformers came from. And the Master System was such an iconic console for myself. And like, fast forwarding possibly 30 years later, like a year or two ago, my wife actually bought me a Master System for the first time ever again for my collection. It just goes to show, like, these consoles still can make you happy on Christmas Day 30 years later. There was quite a large jump between the Master System and my next console, and this one wasn't actually a Christmas present. This was at a time when consoles were starting to get slightly more expensive. If you didn't know, my birthday is the 15th of December, just before Christmas, so this year I asked for money for both my birthday and Christmas so I could save up to buy. In the January sale, I went into Woolworths and bought the GoldenEye N64. What an absolutely iconic pack-in game this was. To get GoldenEye, still one of the greatest couch multiplayer games of all time, with one of the best consoles all time in one package, was such an amazing deal. By this time, I'd played so much N64 around my friends, and I knew I needed to own my own console. And this was probably the first time I ever bought my own console, and what an amazing one to start my game console collecting. As well as getting GoldenEye with my N64, I also picked up a copy of F1 World Grand Prix. I have no idea why I picked this game out of all of the games. I think it might have been part of a special deal in Woolworths at the time. Really showed how long ago that was there. And yeah, I just remember going home, putting this on the TV and like saying to my parents, like, look how amazing this looks. It's like real life. And obviously looking back now, there's some severe rose-tinted vision. So the trend began of buying games consoles using birthday and Christmas money in the January sale. And my next console was no different. I was there first thing in the morning in the January sales, literally Boxing Day morning in Toys R Us, waiting to buy my next console, the clear Game Boy Advance. And Toys R Us had the most amazing bundle. You got one of the best designed handheld consoles of all time, as well as Mario Kart Advance, F-Zero Advance, and one of the first wrestling games I ever played, Road to WrestleMania for the Game Boy Advance. It is kind of hard to believe that this wrestling game somehow worked on the Game Boy Advance, and I was just blown away, you know, how they could have games with this good graphics in a handheld console. I remember going to see family that day and just sat there all day in the conservatory by myself playing these games, just going between Mario Kart, F-Zero and Road to WrestleMania. It was the perfect Boxing Day. Growing up, I was a real Nintendo fanboy. In school, you either liked the N64 or you liked the PlayStation, and the younger me could not see why anyone would prefer the PlayStation. It was a console made by Sony, who had nothing to do with gaming, and was half as powerful as the N64, you know, being only 32-bit. So it was very, very late in the life cycle of the original PlayStation I actually owned my own PlayStation. It was the PS1, the smaller version of the console. I think I bought this after Christmas one year because it was just quite cheap, and I thought, well, it's all these games I've missed out on, and this was the first time I was experiencing a lot of these games. And yeah, it was a weirder thing when you were younger, but let me know in the comments down below. When you were younger, were you a Nintendo or PlayStation fanboy? Or let me know if you were that one kid who was still a Sega fanboy. I think we all had that one friend when we all had N64s and PlayStations who had the Sega Saturn. We're really jumping forward ahead to quite a few Christmases later, and this was a console I again had waited a long while for, and had one of the greatest games of all time packed into it. I knew I had to own this console when, before Christmas, I went to Electronics Boutique and saw a demo kiosk of Halo running on the Microsoft Xbox. And I was absolutely blown away. Coming from the N64 and the PlayStation to this was just a huge step in gaming. So that January I had to pick up the Xbox console bundled with Halo, again one of the greatest multiplayer games of all time, and Midtown Madness. And this was one of the first times I really got obsessed with collecting for a console. This was like just at the end of my high school days, and the breadth of games on the original Xbox just blew me away. But the main thing that really drew me in was the multiplayer. There was so many nights we all hooked up Xboxes, brought around our controllers and just played Halo all night. In my teenage years, this is one of the most influential moments of my gaming life. This period was probably the longest period between getting a gaming console at Christmas. And I just think I was at that kind of teenage angsty point of my life where I just wasn't really bothered about Christmas. You know, I just wanted to be hanging out with my friends. I wasn't really that interested in gaming at this point, and it was a dark period. And it was about 5 years later that I went out once again in the January sales and picked up the Xbox 360. And again, this was such a massive jump. And one of the biggest things of this was the first time I played a console online. I had Xbox Live and I was playing Call of Duty 3 online with other players from around the world. And this was when you had to buy like something to plug into your console so you could actually connect to the wireless internet. It was like a weird time, and it's also when I picked up one of my favourite wrestling games of all time, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. For me, this is kind of in a way where the story of the Christmas console comes to an end. Obviously, as you grow up, you end up buying more consoles for yourself, and more often than not now, I end up buying consoles during Black Friday. It just seems like the January sale is kind of dead and has just been replaced by Black Friday. And also the trend of gaming consoles getting more expensive. Like, I think it's a lot to ask for people to gift you a gaming console these days. Like, a PlayStation is over £400. That is a very expensive Christmas present, and it's a real shame. I just feel like a lot of kids these days are probably going to miss out on the gift of having a games console on Christmas Day. It's a real shame, because these are some real key memories for myself, and I'm sure loads of you watching, of Christmas morning, of just being there and opening a games console and just the joy it brings. And I just worry this could be something we see less and less of. This is what I love about retro game collecting. Even as new consoles get more and more expensive, you can still give the gift of gaming at Christmas. And it is my wife that has kept this dream alive the past few Christmases. Like I said, one Christmas I opened up a Master System on Christmas Day, which was gifted to me by my wife, and I still had that feeling of joy and nostalgia of opening a console on Christmas Day. And this has carried on the past few years. I was gifted an Atari, and even some of the more modern consoles, opening up an Evercade on Christmas morning. It just gives you that same joy of just exploring a brand new console and all the new experiences, and it just brings you. It's these memories that really stick with me around Christmas, and why, for me, Christmas will always be about new games consoles. I really hope you've enjoyed this nostalgic trip down memory lane for like the Christmases of old, just waking up bright and early on Christmas morning and opening up that brand new gaming console. But this is where you folks come in. I want to know your favourite gaming Christmas memory. I want to know if you opened up a NES back in the day, an Xbox, even an Xbox One. Just let me know what your favourite gaming memory of Christmas is. I just want to get that kind of fuzzy, festive feeling down in the comments section and just relive some of the amazing Christmases of our youth, or even more modern. I don't care if last year you opened up a PlayStation 5 and it was the best Christmas of all time. Let us know in the comments down below. There we have it then. That was our Christmas special for 2022, and I hope it's really got you in the mood to wake up bright and early in the morning and open up those Christmas presents. Thank you for everyone who's watched the channel this entire year. For me, this has been the greatest gift this year. Just having all of you folks watching, subscribing, commenting, and just keeping me going. This time last year, I was on the precipice of just quitting YouTube. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I'm just so thankful that people are watching the videos, enjoying the channel, and just being a part of it, because that is what this is all about. The gaming community coming together, and what better time is it to come together than at Christmas. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing Christmas period, or the holiday season, however you celebrate. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep playing the game. See you all soon.